was that band that had the crappy purple Scion
Oh
song?
my gosh, that's right. Everyone sent me that song when it came out.
That was Train.
Yeah.
Train.
Hello and welcome to the Echoboomers Podcast. This is a weekly review of news and current affairs from the perspective of the Echoboomers generation. As always, my name is Anthony Gibson, and I'm joined alongside by Rob Frazier.
Hello yet again.
And Garrett Hawkins.
Hey.
And this is the third episode, and what a week it has been.
Lucky number 3.
Lucky number 3.
I hope.
It's been a busy week, I feel like.
It's been a very busy week.
And I feel like, I was thinking about this earlier this week, I feel like it's been a busier week than normal for 2016. Like, I feel like the end of 2015, every week something weird happened. And then all of a sudden we got into 2016 and we almost escaped like a month where there was like one major story, if
weird.
that.
Yeah.
Like politics wasn't driving you crazy yet. There was the State of the Union, but that, didn't really stir any controversy like it normally would.
No.
Everything was pretty much mellow and we got like a month breath.
And now here we are again.
Here we are.
We're 4 days into February and it's already been nuts.
It's crazy.
So yes, Serial is back. And by back, I mean season 1 is back, kind of. For those of you that are Serial addicts like myself, they are doing an update on Adnan's hearing, and Sarah is actually there every day. She's calling one of the producers every night when she gets back to the hotel, and they're doing like a quick, like 15, 20-minute little breakdown of like what the case was, or, not the case, what the hearing was like that day, and like, what she heard and who's testifying, and whether it's, whether they think that people are buying it, and just all this crazy, just it's basically updating. I guess he filed the motion for this hearing back in
end of last season, I think.
No, he filed the motion for this hearing in 2010. So we're 6 years later now, and we're finally like things are actually happening again. So it was really cool listening to her talk about like what it was like to be in the same room as him, like to see him. And
so before we get too far into this, for those who don't listen to Serial or didn't listen to Serial, like me.
Because you don't do anything fun. You didn't know that there was a McDonald's all-day breakfast.
I am the boringest guy.
I feel
here.
like we need.
So you ready for the quick summary?
So give me like what is the 15-second version of Serial?
So 15 seconds. High school girl disappears. They basically accuse the ex-boyfriend ends up getting arrested and charged with her murder. They do find her body. Bunch of kind of circumstantial and just weird stuff about the case. And he has been sitting in jail since
15 seconds.
Since he got arrested. He's still in jail.
So is this kind of like a fictional story that plays out, or is it actually?
Well, it's not fiction at all. It's totally real.
So it's a case that happened. It's like an unsolved
Do you want to tell
murder.
it, or do you want me to tell it? No. So it's the whole concept of Serial was one story told week by week, and so she just investigated this case and talked to friends of his, talked to dug through all the court records and just basically analyzed this entire cold case to try to figure out if there was something that maybe could have been done. She was actually approached by a family friend of Adnan's family, and she kind of asked her. I guess Sarah she's with WBZ Chicago Public Radio, and they asked her to look into it, and so it just kind of started this whole thing. So they're in the middle of their second season now, and they've moved on to the whole Bill Bergdahl case. And so they're just kind of covering that. That's season 2. But actually what happened was...
each season's going to be a different
Each season is a
case.
different story.
Well, but the first season was a huge deal because it was the murder mystery thing, but nobody had ever done it over podcast.
It was just like...
And it was
the most...
I can see that.
It was the most riveting... I mean, I used to lay in bed at night. Like, you'd wait for the episode to come out once a week, and you just laid there and just like...
So they have you seen on Facebook that they have like the previews now? I know you have, because you posted it on Facebook, the preview of the episodes for the Serial
I
podcast.
did see that, and you can just click on it.
So I looked it up because I was like, that would be awesome if Echoboomers could be a preview.
Yeah.
They're piloting the feature with Serial right now, and when I was reading through that article, I saw a note that said that they had over 100 million downloads.
Because they had this little...
No, not because of the Facebook thing, but like that's what Serial has accomplished
Serial
so far.
is
like
viral.
that's how big of a deal it is.
I've never listened to Serial, but I'm an avid podcast listener, and I've heard so many other podcast hosts mention how much they love Serial.
No, it's just she is a really, really good storyteller. And she also, just because she was she's been involved in journalism for a long time, so she knows what she's doing. She has a really great team. She was backed by This American Life, which is a really popular.
That's a big one.
So she had the resources to it. I mean, that's really what really helped it catch fire. But but the reason why Serial comes up is because I was downstairs cooking dinner and went to pull up the season 2 episode. Wherever I think I'm on like episode 5, whatever one just came out this week, and it popped up with 2 unplayed podcast episodes, and I was like, well, I've only I'm not off, like it's the right week. And then I clicked on it, and it started talking about season 1, and it was her just explaining, hey, like, here, we're doing this. I'm going to be there every day of the hearing. I'm going to call one of my producers every night, and we're going to record. And she's posting it every night. So
they're daily episodes.
So they're daily. So the first one was posted at 11:30 on Wednesday night, and then the second one should be, within an hour of us recording this. It should be online.
Yeah. So Serial was
so excited. They're only like 15-20 minutes, which is a really bummer, because at first I was really worried that season 2 was not going to be as good, which silly me, because they're amazing. So season 2 is great too, but just having that little, just like, you remember how much you liked season 1? Yeah, here it is again.
I never finished season 1 because
I don't know how you couldn't finish season 1.
Ashley and I were trying to listen to it like together, and then
reference Ashley is
my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I forget what happened. I don't know if she
were
went
listening
on her
to it for
job.
class, right?
Yes, I was I was listening to my class, and we were trying to follow along. So it had already came out, but we wanted to listen to it as a class week by week, so we could have the tense,
unpack it. Yeah.
Not being able to listen to it in a binge marathon.
No, totally.
So Ashley, I was trying to listen to it with Ashley, and then halfway through the season, we missed a week, and then I was waiting for her to get caught up, and she was probably waiting for me to get caught up, and then just I didn't do it anymore, and then my teacher never tested me on it, so I had no incentive to go back. Yeah, it just fell apart.
Which that doesn't compute for me, because I was one episode in.
So I was trying to be a good boyfriend and follow along. I didn't want to secretly skip ahead and not tell her, although I did think about it.
So
yeah, Serial's awesome.
Serial, check it out.
All right, so what's next on the agenda?
So I think probably one of the bigger things that happened this week in terms of consuming every media outlet you follow is the Iowa caucuses happened.
Yeah.
We should add some presidential theme music in there somewhere.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Yeah. So the Iowa caucus happened.
Just like we talked about last time.
We knew it was going to happen, right, because we previewed it. Basically, what we ended up with after a very long night, I think the caucus results started at... I want to say it was almost 4 hours between when the caucus results started coming out and when we actually knew what had happened. On the Democratic side, Martin O'Malley got 0%. I think he got 0.5% total.
That shocked me.
No, it didn't.
I thought he was going to take the whole thing.
Poor guy. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit. He really was a better candidate.
And I listened to some of his little just coming across videos and things of his, and he was a decent guy. He really, he
did a good job. He got suffocated in the Hillary Clinton Bernie Sanders shadow.
Yep, he did.
Which is unfortunate. So
he didn't matter next to those two, unfortunately.
Yeah, and all along there was a lot of rumors that he was doing it for an attempt to be a VP kind of thing. So that could happen too. But he dropped out after that night, and he suspended his presidential campaign. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton started, when the results started coming out, they were 1.5%, 2% apart. Mm-hmm. By the end of the night, it slowly slimmed down to I think the final result was 0.3% was the difference. It was a 0.3% difference
between the two of them.
And it eventually came out that Hillary Clinton kind of had, the 0.1% advantage she needed or whatever. They've certified the results in Iowa, and Hillary Clinton is now the winner. But it was really close, and there's a lot of talk about, so the Republican race turned out to be... I was expecting the Republican race to be more interesting than the Democratic race, but they turned out to be equally interesting, because what happened is through the first half of the night, Rubio was a little bit farther behind Trump and Cruz, and they were basically in a tie. And then by the end of the night, Cruz came out with a 4-point lead. to Trump, and Trump only came within like a percentage point of Rubio. So Trump not only did not win the Iowa caucus, but he almost came in third. And Rubio, who was polling at like 10% going into Iowa, got over 20% of the votes.
Yeah, I thought it was really surprising. I mean, I was very excited to see anybody beat Trump. I was a little nervous about that. But to me, actually, the most interesting thing that came out of the Republican side of it was just the candidates that are kind of falling out of it now that they didn't end up, going far enough with it. So I know Rand Paul.
And that breaks my heart so
me
much.
Me too. Rand Paul was my guy for the GOP, but
he was so good.
He's out.
He's so good on the GOP. I hope he wins his Senate race because he honestly, and the reason why I like him so much is he's the only one on the GOP ticket, or at least formerly was on the GOP ticket, who made any attempt to appeal the GOP to minority populations, to populations that don't normally vote GOP, don't normally vote for Republicans. And he made a very strong effort. He went into Detroit and went into the middle of the city and was like, Republicans can help you on this stuff. There are ways that we can enact laws that benefit you and solve these problems. And he was doing a really good job of proving that the Republican Party can be trusted by more than one small faction of America.
Oh, yeah. Well, the interesting thing about Rand, and the reason that I personally liked him, was it seemed like he had really the strongest grasp on what his stance and ideologies were for things. And so even if
they're weird ideologies, they're ideologies people don't understand normally.
Granted, they were, but you throw a lot of questions at a lot of other candidates, and it seems like they kind of have to mull stuff over, and you can tell that they kind of try to think of what constituents would think or what potential voters would think. And to me, it seemed like Rand Paul really stood where he stood. Yeah. No matter whether you liked that or not, he was definitely somebody who really had a set of beliefs that he went by.
And that's what we say about Bernie on the Democratic side,
which is the same thing, just the other direction.
His views are a little bit weird, but he's consistent on them.
Oh yeah, if Rand would have actually gone up and Bernie had come up above Hillary, and those two were the ones, that would have been the most polarizing race this country could have seen. But I also think it would have been.
I would say Cruz versus Sanders would have been polarizing. I think Rand Paul versus Sanders would have been a more friendly race.
Well, the thing is, though, where I was going was not only would it be polar, but you look at everybody who supports Sanders, the thing that everybody says about him is that he is one of the most, integrity-driven guys on the left. And Rand Paul, everybody on the GOP is saying he's like the most integrity-based guy on the right. Yeah. And so putting those two against each other, it would have been very polar, but it would have been a race that almost everybody in the country would have respected really deeply.
So in addition to Rand Paul, we also lost Rick Santorum, which nobody's really crying about. And we also lost Mike Huckabee, which also no one is crying about.
Frank Norris might be crying about that. But apart from him...
I mean, I think Rick Santorum did just as bad as Martin O'Malley. He got like a fraction of a percent, I feel like. And I think Huckabee got like 2%. Like, they got nothing.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of keep forgetting Huckabee's in the race. And whenever I hear his name, I'm like, oh yeah!
That crazy dude.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the clip of Jeb Bush asking his audience to clap for him?
No.
Yes.
Do we have that?
Yes, we do. It's
Can
just
we play that?
Yeah.
Talking a big game without backing it up. I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
How embarrassing.
With the most desperate, just wait, no one clapped. Yeah.
His face is just like, I practice for applause there.
I'm still in this. People still care about me.
Bush.
But that's the funny thing, though, is that he was at one of he was speaking to people that were there to support him.
They were there to clap for him in the first place.
And they weren't clapping for him.
You might need to rethink your strategy if the
that's
people that
a problem.
came for you weren't clapping for you.
Yeah.
So that's what's happened. Rick Santorum threw his support behind Marco Rubio and endorsed him. And since the Iowa caucus, Marco Rubio has gotten a ton of endorsements. So what the general consensus has come out of Iowa as we go into New Hampshire, which is less than a week away, which will be tomorrow when this podcast gets published, is that it's basically coming down to three people, which is going to be Trump, Cruz, and Rubio. And I would be willing to argue and probably bet that Trump will lose the New Hampshire primary and he will just continue to fall.
think so?
From there.
He's still polling really, really, really high.
I saw some numbers today that said he was still high, but that second place had like 5 people tied for it. And on top of that, he also had like a 10-point advantage in the Iowa polls before the Iowa caucus. He got turnout was like 10% less of what he polled at.
Yeah,
so
I
think his polls are too high in New Hampshire. I think his polls are too high across the country.
I don't know. I think Trump might unfortunately hold on just a little bit longer.
I don't think so. I think it'll be Cruz Rubio. One will get first and the other's going to get second.
I wouldn't be sad if that did happen.
I wouldn't be sad.
No, I'd be very okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, Rubio comes out to be a lot more conservative than most candidates the GOP will nominate, but I think that he also is a little bit more conscious of how different his opinions can be from the general public. I've heard him talk on a lot of divisive issues, and he basically says, I recognize that not everyone feels this way, and I'm willing to compromise, and I'm willing to find some middle ground between us. And to me, that's something I haven't heard a Republican say in a long time, especially one with a lot of conservative values.
Yeah.
So it'll be good for the party.
Yeah, I kind of sometimes wonder if Marco Rubio might be a little too traditional for what the country's looking for today. I think that might be somewhere where Ted Cruz has a little bit of an advantage over him.
I can't think of a more conservative Republican candidate since potentially Ronald Reagan, if not earlier than that. What Republican candidate in the last 20, 30 years has been as conservative as Rubio? And Cruz is definitely farther right than Rubio.
Yes.
You know? So I agree with you.
I just think, Rubio's a little bit more of a traditionalist.
Yeah. But I think the establishment of the Republican Party wants that over a Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more core consensus, kind of the more middle side of it. So the news broke this week that something awful has happened, and that is that Toyota has killed off the Scion brand. And this makes me very sad because I own a Scion. I own a toaster oven.
And let's be clear, that's the only reason that someone in this house is sad about it is because you own one.
Yes,
I
would not be sad about it.
Otherwise, we'd go along with the majority of the country that doesn't own a Scion and literally doesn't care about them.
I think my Scion is so cool. I have the XB, which is shaped like a square.
It's a box car.
You've both been in it. Go ahead and try to say on the mic that you don't think it's a cool car.
It's a nice car. I don't have anything against it.
The inside's very spacious.
I'm not saddened by
it cuts
it
corners
going out
really
as a
nice.
company.
It accelerates nice.
What was that band that had the crappy purple Scion?
Oh my gosh, that's right. Everyone sent me that song when it came out.
That was Train.
Yeah.
Train.
Was that even? Did we even figure out if that was the actual lyrics to the song?
It was a crappy purple Scion.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because he got ran over by a crappy purple Scion. Or no, she got ran over. She got ran over by a crappy purple Scion.
So something interesting about the story, though, in terms of Toyota killing off the brand, is that it was initially made to appeal to a younger generation, but when it was created, they were appealing to Gen X, which is the generation behind us. And so now millennials have come into the fold, as the article puts it.
I just don't think Generation X took that bait. Like, I think Scion was like, check us out, and they were like, nah, we're all right.
Yeah.
And so we became the next target.
Which I clearly jumped gladly into.
A bit into, yes.
That's kind of unfortunate for them when they're trying to hit, a demographic that half of us are still in the process of getting a driver's license. Yeah. So it's not the best thing to aim at.
Well, and I think this is another point for why the millennial generation is too big. Because for the top side of the generation, the side that we would still call the millennial generation, they all have cars and they fall into that demographic. But like you're saying, our generation, the Echoboomers, subsection, half of us don't even have license.
Yes, yeah. I mean the three of us do, but if you take our group, our 10-year span, half of us have license, half of us don't, and let's face it, all of us, for the most part, we don't have the kind of money to even go buy a new car.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's the thing, right? I think that was really their downfall was that. They didn't appeal to Generation X, so they definitely wouldn't appeal to the generation before that. And who do you think our parents are? That generation. So for kids that don't have their licenses, their parents are not going to be buying them Scions. Like, it's not that they missed the boat with it, and the people that would be buying that car for the latter half of our age group is not going to buy it for them.
I mean,
so
if
it
they
just
could
kind
have
of
waited
died off.
another 5 years to put out the Scion, it might have made it, but
Maybe.
it was just.
I don't know. I think they did pretty good as they stood.
I don't. How many did
They
they have?
a little bias.
Did they have a lot of cars?
They sold more than 1 million.
No. So I mean, like models.
Oh no, they only had like 4 or 5 models.
Okay. Yeah.
They were only intended to be a small brand anyway. I'm just surprised that, like, I thought the Scion brand was doing fine. I didn't realize that Toyota needed to fold it into the main brand itself.
So they're still going to sell the models, but it's just
Yeah,
they're going back on. So then what's the?
I think what's going to happen is, and I haven't read anything, but what's probably going to happen is that they'll still sell the current batch that's out, obviously the current model,
Yeah.
and then going into future years, you'll see similar looking cars start popping up on Toyota's side.
Toyota.
Yeah, like they were in the article, they talked about like an SUV concept Scion had, and they were like, the problem is this demographic, this buyer demographic won't buy SUVs, so we have to take that too.
So maybe I just don't know enough about car sales, but why would that? If Toyota owns Scion anyway, what does it matter whether they sell it with a Scion logo or a Toyota logo?
I think it's just a lot of extra overhead because you have to have a whole new brand. It's a whole separate company. That's a lot of overhead that you have to pay for just to have the separate brand. And
But are they a separate company?
it's the profits from the company goes into Toyota, but Toyota still has to foot the bill for all the buildings and the logos, and
They don't sell those at a Toyota dealer?
they do. But it's instead of paying for the Toyota brand only, they have to pay for the Toyota brand and the Scion brand.
Right.
It's
Which is, like I
two
said,
costs
maybe
when
it's
you
just
could pay
me
it
not
once.
understanding, because to me the Scion brand is the logo on the back of the car, like the little, emblem that they make
Well-
that goes on. Like I don't.
But
Legally,
think about
it's a little bit different than that.
legally, but think about where that logo is. That logo is on people's shirts when they go into work. It's on the side of buildings. It's everywhere. It's on business cards. It's on invoices. All that cost to produce all of that material is a lot of money when you could have just had Toyota logos the entire time and saved money because you had the batch order.
Yeah, so I definitely don't know enough about car sales.
So
I'll
they're
take your
dying.
word for it.
So Scion
Either
is
way,
going to be no more.
Rest in peace.
I'm sad. Guess I'll have to buy a Tesla.
But now your car's going to be,
obsolete. I know. I'm going to be I hope.
Well, I wasn't going to say obsolete. I was going to say like rare. Like it was going to be like a
Vintage.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say vintage, but
it's only 3
I don't
years
like
old.
them that much. But I'd say, you got something that not a lot of people are going to have in the future.
Speaking of logo changes, if you are a user of the Uber app, you're going to open your phone in the next couple days and you're going to notice that the icon is gone because they have changed their logo.
Why?
It's a part of a bigger rebranding strategy. They have a whole article, and we're going to put it in the show notes, but they have a whole article kind of explaining the design process behind it. So for a designer like me, it's super, super interesting. For everyone else, it's like, that's a bunch of fluffy words for why you made the colors green and
Different
pink.
color, yeah.
Does it just look like a Bop It now, or
No, so the icon itself is supposed to be symbolic of atoms and the bits, and it's like trying to draw connections to like computer bits, like the base of technology, and atoms, which is the base of physical world. And they're trying to say that they want to be the technology company that moves all the physical products in the world.
So what is a bit? Because I'm looking at this, like I see what it says about the bit in the middle, but what is that?
It's like what the atom is to the physical world, the bit is to the digital world.
Oh, okay.
It's like
oh,
the
that
base
was a good. That makes
actually
sense.
a pretty good.
That's the basic-
explanation.
I mean,
Yeah.
I saw the thing about atoms, but still, I was just like, I don't.
So
got it.
as a designer, I look at it and I actually like the redesign. I think that it's a good attempt.
Oh, and the local colors.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's a whole section
I
on
can kind
it.
of appreciate this. So they'll use these colors here to. So if you're in China, these are the colors they'll use for the app. If you're in Ireland, these are the colors they'll use. Like
So-
it's okay. This makes a lot more sense now.
The reason why I put it in our list of topics to talk about is it's the first time I've seen a major brand like this focus so heavily on locations. And I mean, they're going down to countries. So all the textures and all the kind of design aesthetics that are a part of their brand for
I mean,
Mexico
look at these
or China.
patterns. Like, look, they have like these for India and like this one for Mexico. Ireland's just green because everything is actually green there. Like, okay, all right.
And I think,
Yeah.
I bring it up because I think you're going to see a little bit more of this in the future. I think technology has gotten us to a point where it doesn't cost a lot of money in relation to 10 years ago, 20 years ago,
Right.
to do things like this where you specify the way a product is presented to the user, in this case an app, based on where they live, what they do, what they're into.
Okay, I can kind of get behind this now.
So, as a designer, I look at it and I have a lot of fun reading through this and dissecting it. But apparently I'm the only designer that feels this way, because I found a lot of articles online that
are people not
bashed
liking it?
So let me just read you a couple of the headlines that I found. Uber explains its bizarre new logo, Fortune magazine. Uber changed its logo to something pretty weird, Mashable. A lot of designers online, I was looking through some chat forums and stuff, everybody was bashing it. And then I talked to a friend of mine that works in San Francisco as a designer, Armin. You guys know Armin. Shout out to Armin, who's hopefully listening. I asked him for his opinion before we started recording the show, and he gave me a very long list of reasons why he felt it wasn't a very strong brand.
Oh, he didn't like it either?
He didn't like it either.
Oh.
I kind of go to him
now
to tell me what I was wrong on, so I feel
like a loser for liking it now. You totally led me into this and like built me up, and now I feel like...
a trap.
So my buddy Armin makes a lot of great points from a designer's standpoint on why it doesn't work. I think to the general population, once you understand the story behind it, it makes a lot of sense, right? What do you think?
Well, yes, but I think that's the thing is a lot of people are going to read the story.
Yeah, so
I mean, they're gonna do the update on their phone, see the different color and the different little icon, and just click it anyway because they need a ride.
That's the thing with I think a lot of small logo design stuff is a lot of people really read into it. But honestly, if I saw a small logo change like that, I'd look at it for a quarter of a second, go, "Oh, that's different."
I mean,
whatever.
Don't get me wrong. I feel like this is a very big logo change.
Well, because it's going from having the word of Uber on the app icon to now it's just a symbol, which nobody got prepped on.
It's still their little whatever.
We also have to acknowledge that probably the biggest thing that will change in this logo is, so when you pull up the app, you're going to see this new logo, right? Or if you're looking for the app
icon on your phone.
So realistically, the biggest thing that's going to happen out of this is about probably half or a third of Uber's demographic, I would imagine, are people coming out of bars that need a way to get home.
Yeah.
And so they're going to go, "Where's my Uber?" And they're going to start looking through their phone and not be able to find the app because Uber just went and changed the logo on everybody who's too buzzed to figure out what's going on.
Well, you shouldn't be attacking your drivers then. Then we wouldn't have to trick you to not use the app.
Yeah. And I just wonder, I mean, I feel like our generation is the generation that uses Uber to get home after going out and getting drunk. It seems like other people, especially people that are older than our age group, don't use it exclusively for that, so they might appreciate it more. But like as far as I'm concerned, like the people I know that would use Uber would be for exactly that.
Well, and I know a lot of people use it, if you're traveling too, it's a good way to kind of get around, without renting a car and all of that. But yeah, most of the people in our generation that I know, it seems like they would just kind of be thrown off when they come out of the bars late at night.
So now that I've given you the brief on both sides, where do you stand as people that aren't designers and looking super fine into the details?
The way you explained it to me, it was cool, but I think like realistically, I wouldn't care.
Okay.
I would see the icon change and be like, oh, they changed their icon, and maybe you'd notice because I'm assuming they're going to change the interface too, like how they.
I think a lot of things are going to change in it. Yeah.
The colors will change, all that stuff. So it's kind of like, oh, it's different, but. Beyond that, I wouldn't read into why they were doing it unless it was, crazy.
I agree. I think if I'm looking at it in isolation, I don't really get the point. If it's part of a bigger marketing push and they're really looking to revamp their company, I guess I see how it could be beneficial. But just the change of logo, I don't really get what the big deal is.
I mean, if you watch, they have a video in the link that we'll post here in the show notes. But if you watch the video, they basically tell you what they want to do for the next 10, 20 years of their company, which, like I mentioned earlier, is they want to be the technology that transports all of the physical items in the world.
Well, wait. So actually, that's pretty big. And
it includes... So it's funny because the end of the video talks about self-driving cars, which one of the comments I've read was like, so you're basically telling everyone that is employed by your app to be drivers that they're going to be obsolete and you're going to fire them all.
Hold up, though. So they didn't say that they want to be transporting all the people in the world. They said they want to be transporting everything in the world. So does that mean that they're actually looking to take on places like FedEx and Amazon and...
To a degree, but they already have an app that I want to say they're trialing in San Francisco. It's called Uber Eats, and they deliver food like Postmates does. Postmates is another food delivery app.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're already testing that. I've seen things where they've delivered ice cream. I saw something the other day when they deliver puppies. I mean, I would order an Uber full of puppies.
Any Uber car showed up to my house with ice cream and puppies.
See, but the problem is they take the puppies away after your time's up.
Well, I
like
just
after you
need
finish
to
your ice cream. The puppies are gone.
Well,
too,
the puppies
so.
you can. Well, like the puppies you can. That's like they did like a special thing where they would let you
you
basically
puppy therapy.
rent them. Yeah, which is not quite the same as delivering food, but I think to the bigger point is that they are willing to tackle more than just riders now.
Right. So the last thing we want to cover this week is a little bit out of the ordinary for kind of what we would normally cover. It's not a news story that broke this week, and it doesn't come from a major publication, but it's something that came across on Medium, and it was published a little before last year. But Garrett, you put this in our kind of group chat for the team. What struck to you about it?
So basically what it is, it's this article that I stumbled across called "Want Your Children to Survive the Future? Send Them to Art School." And the article isn't really about art school like it sounds, but really what the topic is about is the skill set that's going to be changing in the employment market over the coming decades. So basically the idea is that, as technology develops, manual labor and kind of easier jobs are going to become less and less common as technology replaces those. And if we take this out a few decades, there's going to be less jobs available for people. So the idea is, what can you do to make your kids still have job security in a world where there aren't as many jobs or jobs might not be needed?
Yeah, one of the first lines in the article is, can you imagine a world where most jobs are obsolete? This resonates with me because I experienced this growing up and going into college. My parents, gave me a lot of guidance in kind of how to navigate everything that was college and how to pick your major and figure out what you wanted to do. And the goal was always to find something practical that people would, a lot of people would want to employ you for. Business, communications, these are things that a lot of different companies need to hire for. And so as such, you have job security. But this article makes the argument that a lot of the jobs that we currently have are going to be obsolete. And so while, business, people who are getting business majors and communications majors are still going to get jobs, art school is not out of the question anymore. And when I see that, I think of it in the context of, we now are beginning to live in a world where people could explore their weird curiosities, and it is still not only going to be beneficial to society, but somebody will want to employ them for that.
Yeah, basically the idea, the reason it's saying you should send your kids to art school is because what they'll get there is not a practical skill, but a creative mindset. And a creative mindset is going to be one of the last things, if it even comes, that we would be able to outsource to technology. So, you brought up a good point where you look at generations a while back, and everybody went through their education and took, job training for things that were very practical. What is the actual job I'm going to be doing? And it seems like over the last few decades, a lot of it shifted to, instead of just being practical, it was maybe you should do something practical, but you can do something that you would like to enjoy that's creative as long as you have a fallback that's going to be more practical. And this is something I know I was advised to do going into college. And it looks like the way the world might be going as technology develops is the practical element might not be there anymore. And the only thing we really need to focus on if you want a job is creative skills, which is something that can't be offered by standard schools.
I think this will resonate with you because, Garrett, you're an audio producer.
Yeah.
One of the lines stuck out to me as a great metaphor for kind of what this is. It's hard to justify using a massive workforce of recording engineers, media manufacturers, distributors, talent scouts to accomplish the task that a musician can now do by herself in an afternoon with a laptop.
It's very true. I mean, you look at music back in the early 90s, and in order to do recordings, you had to get lots of musicians in there. They go into these studios that cost, they were multi-million-dollar studios where you're paying an engineer hundreds of dollars an hour, and you'd work at it for months and months, and you'd finally put out an album, and it would go through this big record label. And the way things are now, you can pretty much sit at home in your bedroom with a couple $1,000s worth of gear and turn out the stuff yourself. And it's fascinating how technology has really changed the jobs. One area that I actually see this a lot is I'm a drummer, and I do a lot of studio drum recording. And the way that would have used to work was you'd be in person in a recording studio working with a band. Now I work all over the world with bands in Australia and bands in Ireland and bands in all over the United States doing things digitally because that technology is available to me now.
Yeah.
So the way that I survived wasn't the practical skills, it's that I found a creative market that technology allowed me to work with.
I think really the underlying message of the article was that while we are seeing this kind of trend towards automation and skilled worker jobs not always being as necessary anymore, the point is that you should never be dissuading your children from pursuing something they're interested in, because I think that's why we got this to this point in the first place, is that you had this whole creative community that has been interested in this, in the arts for forever. And, for a while we got very critical of the arts and were encouraging people to, get degrees that were more quote unquote practical.
Right.
And, that STEM is not important because it is. Mm-hmm. And it's not also to say that, the arts are not important because they are. But I think the message is that the analytical, critical thinking, just kind of general skills that you get from those types of degrees are valuable. And I think people are starting to see that.
I feel like we're finally at a point where we can see what the next 10, 20, 30 years looks like. I think we're...
Really? You think so?
I think we have a taste of it.
I think even more so, no.
I think we have a better understanding of where we're heading in the next 10 to 20 years than 20 years ago people had an understanding of what today was going to look like, right? I think before the internet comes around, before it becomes a mainstream thing, everything is so vastly different. Technology, communications move at just such a slower pace in a pre-internet world. I don't think you could have even begun to envision what the internet would do to the world as a whole until it hit mainstream.
But that's exactly the thing is it's hard to conceptualize before it comes around. Yeah. Yes, the internet's huge, but we don't know what's going to come about because of what the internet
And that's what I'm saying is I think the argument that you're making right now could be made against you as well, because things are developing so fast that things in 10 years could look, even more so different than they've been looking, recently, because we're at a point where things are just developing so fast.
Let me clarify. I'm not trying to say that you can predict what's going to happen in 10 years, but I think there is a level of credit that needs to be given to generations older than us, our parents, because there's no way you could have even begun to predict what was going to happen in order to give us this advice. I think this is the right advice, and going into the future, this is it's very clear.
Their advice wasn't wrong. We just, we rode that wave, and now we're kind of coming back down. But no, I just think in general that I think that's maybe this article is kind of hinting at, is that those skills are so transferable over so many different types of careers and life skills that that I think this article is saying it doesn't really matter, where exactly, even if we don't really know where we're going, in the next 10 years, because we've kind of come back around to realizing that these skills and these, kind of things that you learn from these types of degrees and educations, or whatever it is, that they transfer to so many different things. And so it's not, you're not going to school just to learn how to do this or just how to do this. It's the kind of overall, you're learning the skill set that you can take to more than one place.
Yeah, you're learning a set of skills that help you become a lot more adaptable to the situation you're in.
It almost doesn't matter what happens with the market or what technological changes come. You're going to be able to surpass that because you're going to be adaptable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so to me, this is not to say that, if you aren't creative, if you don't feel like you're someone who can sing or draw or dance or any of the arts, that you understand math and science and that kind of stuff. Like you were saying earlier, Rob, STEM still is completely important. I think the art side hasn't had an opportunity like they're going to have in terms of being able to contribute to society and be employable by a large range of companies.
Well, and it's also the idea that the skills that you learn in an art type setting might actually transfer to be the new practical skills in a world where information isn't what's valuable anymore.
Right.
Because we can all jump on the internet and get information. Now, actually, another big thing that this article kind of touched on was the idea that there will not be as many jobs available in the future as technology progresses. And I've kind of looked at different articles that have talked about this, and there's a lot of mixed thoughts on this, where some people think that this could end up being a very bad thing where we won't have that many jobs left. And there's a lot of other people
Job shortage.
A job shortage, yeah. But there's a lot of other people that see that it could actually be a very good thing because we will have technology doing a lot of things for us, which frees us up to either enjoy life more or,
We're going to become like the Wall-E movie where we all just
Exactly.
roll around on little chairs because we don't need jobs anymore. Everything's so automated that we don't have to buy anything.
So that's the pessimistic view right there. There's also the optimistic view that we don't have to do anything and we can just lounge around on the beach all day, which sounds awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we can't unpack this in a weekly podcast, but I think there's a conversation that needs to be had in terms of the biggest problems we face right now. How do we solve those problems without completely polarizing everybody involved? How do we solve those problems and acknowledge the concerns that every party involved has so that we can get past those into the problems like what happens when we don't have enough jobs for our entire society?
Yeah.
That's a scenario
This
where
is unemployment at like a 90 or 95% scale.
Okay, I think that's a little far-fetched. I think that's very far away. But the point where self-driving cars have taken jobs away from truckers, have taken jobs away from people who drive taxis and Ubers and Lyfts, from people who drive buses. I mean, the entire transportation industry loses a lot of jobs because of automized cars. What do you do with those people? What are those people able to do? Where do they go find new jobs at when that's all they've done for 30 years?
They have or they will?
Automated cars are going to be a thing within the next 5 to 10 years.
Will be a thing.
Will be.
Okay, yeah.
From everything I've been seeing that has been unfolding in technology over the last couple months, automated cars will be available for purchase within the next 5 years. And I would say that there are people that are alive today that will never be allowed to have a license because it'll be too dangerous for them to drive. Automated cars will penetrate the market so much. Everybody will have an automated car. You'll be dangerous to be driving on your own.
Oh, in 60 years, that's definitely what it'll be. There won't be
I think it's going to happen faster
regular
than that.
cars back
We're going to be
on the road.
outlawing regular cars.
I think that happens in the next 10 to 20 years, not 60.
That's going to be one of those things that, as us Echoboomers of the millennial generation get older, we're going to talk to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and say, I remember when I actually drove my car.
I had a really cool first car. I loved my first car. It was an old truck. And if I don't get to rebuy that when I'm older and having a midlife crisis and drive it, I'm going to
You're
cry.
running out of time.
You might be able to buy it, but it would you probably have to have like a special permit to even own it and keep it in
you'll
your
only be able to-
garage.
Only drive it on your own little property
Yeah,
or something.
you'll have
like that.
specific tracks you are going to be allowed to drive it on. Yeah.
I bet it'll be the kind of thing too where there might be places you could go, kind of like a bowling alley or a gun range where you can go to actually drive your manual
The
cars. Yeah.
I don't know. It's nice to see that we're kind of getting back around to this point, this place of letting people explore things that they're interested in, and not being pigeonholed because we're trying to connect to the job market. Like we're actually just letting people do things that they want to do. And as someone who's education being my kind of thing, this is good. And we're already seeing this in schools. We're already getting to the point where we want to let kids learn the way that they want to learn, and we're trying to really adapt our curriculum and our instruction to the different ways that children learn and to the ways that build those skill sets that are going to end up being, we're getting there already. We're already starting to do this, and it's nice to see that this is all kind of coming back. I think we're finally starting to get it right again.
Well, and I think it's not just about, kind of these options being available. We talked about it a little bit in the episode 0 when we were talking about the concept of Echoboomers. The world has never been stable enough for this to be a thing, for us to have these kinds of conversations. 40, 50 years ago, we were trying to figure out how not to go to war with the entire world. Now we're having conversations about what weird career you want to pick today because, there will be value in it.
It's a good time to be alive.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's truly incredible.
So I think we should end it on that note. I think we should end it on a very positive note that there is going to be some great stuff in the future.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, so we're all optimistic votes in this.
Well, that's going to do it for us this week. If you liked the episode, you can always find the previous episodes we've published or new ones coming up on our website at echoboomers.co. If you have your favorite podcast app on your phone, you can search for us, search for Echo Boomers, and we should pop up. You can also find us on Twitter at Echoboomers Co. You can find us on Facebook. And through one of those many different ways to get a hold of us and listen to us, we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear what you think about the show.
Definitely.
The topics we cover, topics we don't cover.
Everything.
So please send us your feedback, send us your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. And that'll wrap up this week. As always, I'm Anthony Gibson.
I'm Robert Frazier.
And I'm Garrett Hawkins.
We'll see you next week.